Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petralis, and we are excited here for our first episode of the new year, 2021. Let's hope it's a better year than last year. And we're really excited. We got some new things in the background here. You notice, shout out to my baby brother, Nick, who got this made for me. Glad I got him in our family grab this year. And my wife had a few shirts custom by Meg that made these shirts for us. We'll be selling them pretty soon. So we're really excited for the new year. And I couldn't think of a better first guest to have on here to kick off this episode. You know, the current head football coach at Boston College High School, was a player there for 4 years, jumped on staff in 2008. And to me, one of the most impressive things that really came out about this coach was that they were both the offensive and defensive coordinators at BC High during his assistant coaching tenure, which, you know, to me, those are some of the smartest coaches out there when you can coach both sides of the ball very well, what makes you a great head coach. And then in 2018, took over the head coaching job at BC High. When you hear BC High, you think really good football teams, really good hockey teams, and really good, I'm sure, other sports that I'm not aware of, but I'm sure they're really great at everything. So I'm honored here to have on the head football coach at BC High, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Brillo.
Coach, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. We're excited to have you. So, you know, typically I ask my first guest when they come on, hey, let's hear the story. I want to hear, you know, where you came from, you know, how you got to BC High, you know, you travel from an assistant to becoming a head coach.
Sure. You know, BC High has kind of always been like pretty much a family to me, a place to kind of call home. Back when I was about 6, 7, 8 years old, my father was one of the sophomore team coaches, and he had been there. I think he coached about 8 or 9 years there during, you know, as I grew up all the way to when I was about a senior. So, and I would always accompany him to double sessions all the time. You know, watch Coach Carter, the kids all play, hang around with all the coaches, the other coaches, you know, sons and daughters would be there. We'd all hang around, just watch. And, you know, I really fell in love with BC High back then. And, you know, always went as much as I possibly could, learned everything as I grew up. You know, I would go to the camps and kind of, you know, throw the ball with some of the guys in drills and learn the system and learn how to play and what the school's all about. And I didn't want to go anywhere else. I applied everywhere, but that's really where I went. And I was lucky enough that, you know, my parents could afford to send us there and allowed us to go, you know, me to go there. And I had a blast. It was the best 4 years I've had there. A lot of friends, you know, even guys that I'm friends with I made there are now back coaching with us now. So I really loved that. And then, you know, after that, I went off to college. I threw the javelin. I played about a year at Assumption, threw the javelin for 4 years. And then I kind of jumped around a couple jobs. And my most recent job allows a little bit of free time in the afternoon. In about 2008, I heard that there was a freshman job open, and I jumped at it. It was basically a special teams, just whatever you could fill in. You know, there was 2 other great guys that I started with in 2008, Steve Kiley and Coach Matt McClune, who actually works with our strength. And Steve actually was our strength coach for a while, did a really good job. So, you know, we wish him the luck in his endeavor now. Matt did an excellent job, and the 3 of us just had a blast. We hit it off, and, you know, we'd always hang out on Saturdays and after and talk about the games and watch college and stuff like that. So it was really fun doing that and coming up, learning how to coach and just enjoying that first year. And then, you know, things happened to change after the first year. The DB job and quarterback job opened up. You know, I moved up. I had kind of been a, you know, Friday night booth guy as a freshman, even on the Super Bowl in 2008, which was a cool experience. And then just kind of moved up that way a little bit, just doing a little bit of here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that as we go along. You know, we introduced Huddle. I took on the responsibility of learning how to use it and teaching the other coaches how to use it. Whatever needed to be done, practice scripts, writing up cards, whatever you name it, we would do it, make sure stuff gets on and off the bus, just doing the grind stuff and working my way up. When John stepped down, Coach Bartlett, that is, I should say, he stepped down. Coach Gaff took over and appointed me the OC at the time. I think I did that for about 2 years. When Coach Bartlett came back, I think I took over as the DC. We hired a few other new people, and we had great success implementing the 4-3, 3-4 that we've been running for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and just kind of been learning as much as possible. You know, when John kind of stepped down the first time, I wasn't sure, you know, if I had been coaching long enough to really, you know, go for the job. But, you know, I went for it and, you know, go through the experience, find out what it's all about, learn about that, and prepare myself for where I am now. So I'm excited. I love it. And, it's a lot of work, but, I got some good people around me, and I really enjoy it.
No, it's awesome. And our stories are so parallel. Like listening to you talk a little bit, just the grind stuff and, doing the things that nobody else wanted to do, or the coaches who had then been there for a long time are kind of pawning off on the younger guys. And that's the best experience, right? Like learning how to use huddle and learning and understanding your offense and defense and, running scout teams and understanding what teams are going to do against you. The grind stuff's the best. That's where you learn the most. One really cool thing, and you just kind of added an element to the story, which is even better. So I started in 2005, and in 2008, the freshman team that I coached, we went to Gillette and won the Super Bowl. And it was a really cool experience. So those are the guys that I started my career with. I had a really big, effect on them and in their rise in the program, and really teaching them at the, coaching them at the freshman level, the JV level, and then the varsity level. 2008, you guys went to the Super Bowl. You're a young assistant, but in 2011, just 2011, you guys went to the Super Bowl, and your freshman class won the Super Bowl, which I know that experience is really cool. So talk about that. I talk to these guys today still. I mean, I text with them, I see them in person. I've had a drink with them, like as they're older, and it's really cool to just, there's a bond there that's really fun. So, I wanted you to give you a chance to talk about it for those guys, the relationship that you have.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, talking about that bond. You don't really forget. You never forget that first team, whatever it is, good, bad, indifferent, or whatever it is. You really do remember it. And I just remember coaching those guys, and I was lucky enough that the quarterback we had at the time was also Coach Carter's grandson, Mo Regan, also our current president, Grace Regan's son. Great kid to have, kind of be one of those captains leading that program the whole way. All these guys were great, and not because they were just a good team, but they were selfless players. They were committed to each other. They knew how to win. They were competitive. There was nobody, I'm better than the other. If this guy went down, the next guy was ready to go. They were deep and they were tight, which was really cool to see. We did some really fun things, and we did some advanced things that freshman. We were running our system offense and defensively, at the freshman level, but we were able to, hey, these guys are pretty good. They're smart. Let's start to mix some things up. Let's see if they can make some calls at the line of scrimmage. Let's give them some freedom. And they loved it, and they ate it up, and they just wanted more. And then, and that kind of built a little bit of a culture with them as they got older. They took their lumps, and sophomore year, some of them were starting, but they were still very young. And we were just coming off of some really good years, so they're kind of in that cloudy phase and trying to bridge the 2 years together. But they hung in there. They took their lumps. Junior year, we come out. We got a little bit better. We're traveling a little bit more to play teams out of state, becoming a little bit tighter. And by the time they were seniors, I mean, they were clicking on all cylinders. They had seen everything. They had been through everything, the good, bad, and the ugly with each other, which was the big thing for us, right? Just, we talk about being men for others. That's part of our motto at school. And it's a perfect model for football, because you need all 11 guys on the field as well as everybody on the sideline, all clicking and being on the same page, clicking on all cylinders. And that team really embodied a lot of that. And I'm very proud of that. I'm sure Coach Kiley, who was the freshman coach, the head coach at the time, as well as Coach McClune is as well, and I talked to those guys. They keep in touch with a lot of them. I keep in touch. And what we kind of introduced back then was a little bit of what Ronnie Lott talked about, was get that woo. You probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. For those who don't, you go to an NFL game or any game, anything in general, and you see a big hit, a big, home run, a slam dunk, whatever, the fans, everybody jumps up and they give the woo. So we started making that like a rally cry, after practice. The DBs, I kind of put a whole thing together, and we would have that as a big rally cry. And then it kind of evolved a little bit. And as these guys got older, the woo didn't just stand for the big play, the big hit. It started to talk about, or more or less explain, hey, you got a 4.0 on your report card. You got engaged. You had your first baby. You got married. Your first house. And now I'm seeing that with all these guys. And the first thing I do when I see it on, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, I give the big congrats and I put the woo right there with it. I want to say our running back from that year, Preston Cooper, just had a baby boy. So congratulations, Preston. So, I love seeing all that stuff. These guys are doing phenomenal. We've even had some come back and coach alongside, not me as a head coach, but alongside as being an assistant. And it's just awesome to see how they've flourished and grown over the years.
Yeah, it's just a really cool bond, and I don't meet too many people that I get to talk to that about. You know, I was lucky enough to do it with my brother, so we kind of share that bond that we both coached that freshman team. And the year we won the Super Bowl, I was the D coordinator, he was the offensive coordinator. So it was cool that we moved up with them and we were there for them. It's almost like I secretly passed the baton to you in '08, and we just didn't know. So awesome. But, you know, something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk to you about, and I think this is great for, especially for the younger coaches out there, is you said you went for the job the first time and, you know, the interview process, right? I mean, Boston College High School is a big time program and you play some big time competition. So talk about the interview process, how you go in there, how you prepare for something like that. And, you know, what did you sell the school on? Hey, I'm the right guy for this job because, like, talk about that process a little bit.
Sure. And I think a lot of it goes back to just having the experience and gaining the confidence. Like I said, you know, my brother's an athletic director out at Ludlow High, and he was a former college coach. He's a girls basketball varsity coach. So he's been in those shoes. He's a few years older than me. So he had some great, you know, great advice. He says, just go for it. You got nothing to lose, right? If you don't get it, you don't get it. If you don't, and you learn something. If you do, great. I was lucky enough, I shouldn't say lucky enough not to get it, but I didn't get it, but I was lucky enough to stay on staff and continue to grow and learn how to be a coach that way. And when my time came, you know, you still have a little bit of that. Am I able to do it? Can I swing it? You know, with the family life, all these things. And, you know, I had some good support. So I gave it a good shot. And I think, you know, just some of my body work, being around the school, I not only was coaching football, I was coaching indoor track and outdoor track, just having the relationship with the kids, the players, being a former athlete, an alumni as well. But then talking about, you know, how I wanted to run the program and hold the kids to the standards of the school, be men for others, be a family. What we talk about is, you know, guys that want to do stuff for each other. You know, we try to end every practice with take care of yourself, but most importantly, take care of each other. You know, and then talking about how we view BC High, right? That we play in a phenomenal conference. We play an extraordinarily powerful schedule year in and year out. Why shouldn't we be one of those top tier, you know, state or possibly even region type teams? And I think, you know, we have a president who's on board with making sports a very highlight of the school. You know, she's trying to do everything she can to maximize the space we have so that we can pull in the best players that we possibly can and highlight our facilities and our our academic side of our school. So I think just embodying all those things and trying to show them that, hey, I really care about not just winning, but the kids in general and how we can make them better human beings going forward.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that because that's something I want to highlight about your program is your strength of schedule, but also what you just said about wanting to be that top tier, you know, program in the state, but possibly even beyond a little bit. So I want to jump into that before I do, because again, there are a lot of parallels between us. I was an assistant coach for a long time at Arlington Catholic before I became head coach there, and obviously the same thing for you at BC High. Talk about the biggest thing you learned from becoming a coordinator to becoming a head coach that you were just like, oh my God, this is part of the job too?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You could nitpick a lot of different things, but I think the big thing for me is when I step back and I look at that first year, that entire first year was just like, you know, welcome to being a head coach. You know, day in and day out was something different, whether it was, you know, fielding calls from parents or emails or, hey, this happened with the freshman team or the Arupe, our middle school team, you know, little things like that, or a kid, hey, I just need a belt, or, you know, our trainer told me I can't do this, and, you know, those little things. But, you know, just having that first year experience, you know, I was hired about, you know, 3 months before the season started. So there was a very tight window to get everything kind of going, whether it was organizing the staff or getting the systems involved and up and running. So, you know, I look at all of that, and then, you know, we look back at some practices and some of that, and we rushed through, we skipped over things, and it kind of showed a little bit. We were an extraordinarily young team. I kind of recognized that a little bit coming into it, but that we were going to have a very small senior class. I think we only had about 13. And then we had not the biggest junior class. And then a lot of our talent came out of that sophomore team, our current seniors now. So I think understanding that there's going to be growing pains, and how to make those adjustments and work on those day in and day out, how to make our meetings better, how to make our practices run smoother, more efficiently. So a lot of those things just kind of came into play that first year, and, it went by like that, but, we had fun. May not have been the best team, but we won some games. We had a lot of fun, and the kids competed hard. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second, because don't discredit yourself either. Record wise, maybe it wasn't the year that you wanted to have, but I'm just gonna read these off to you, okay? Just so you understand it. When we talked about this, I don't think you really knew this until, you probably knew, but you didn't know statistically. You played a schedule your first year as a head coach. You're coming in, a program that you've been a coordinator to a long time, and it's not like you have some cupcakes on the schedule, okay? You have a combined record of 84-30, with 3 of your opponents going to their prospective Super Bowls in their division. You play Mansfield, who was 8-3, Marshfield, who was 5-7. Again, Marshfield is the same thing as you guys, I'm sure. They play a lot of tough teams in a tough conference, right? Tewksbury went to Super Bowl. Brockton, Tewksbury's 11-2, Brockton 6-4, Everett 11-1, St. John's Prep 10-2, Super Bowl. Xaverian, you played twice. They were 9-2 when you played them the second time. Needham 7-4, and then obviously Catholic Memorial 9-3. They went on to the Super Bowl. So I argue you had the hardest schedule in the state of Massachusetts that year, maybe outside the New England Patriots and possibly BC, Boston College. Talk about that. That's a tough schedule, and talk about that year a little bit and what you maybe learned about yourself as a head coach.
Yeah, I think, going in, I was excited about the schedule. We love it. That's what I want. That's what our guys, that's why they come to BC High, right? They want to be challenged academically. Let's challenge them athletically as well. Let's give them the best of the both worlds. And we certainly try to do that year in and year out. I work with Coach Bartlett and our athletic department on trying to schedule, and even try to reach out to, we try to reach out to maybe New Jersey, New York. We had a great team scheduled for this year out of Buffalo. Canisius High School would have been an awesome one to come. They were coming to see us to come play. But that first year we look at it and says, hey, we're going to be ready. And I think I remember, we got knocked out, and I forget where we played. I think it was Attleboro or something. And I remember the coach afterwards saying, hey, you're the best 2-5 team I've ever seen. So it's like, well, we're a good team. We just played a phenomenal schedule. But for us, if we want to be that regional power and possibly even further down that line, that national recognition, we got to continue to schedule those, whether they're in state or out. The Catholic Conference, in my mind, is arguably one of the best around. This year alone, I can't even count really how many guys have FBS, FCS, Division II type scholarships already, and they haven't even played their senior season yet. We want that level of football day in and day out, because it's just going to build confidence, and it's going to pay off for our guys down the line. So we're really hoping we can continue to do that. And the biggest thing we got to do is we got to win those. If we're going to play that type of schedule, we've got to win it. And that's just going to build the confidence that we're talking about over and over again with our guys. So I think that's, coming out of that first year and seeing some of the games and how some of our guys reacted, they might have taken a beating that day or something, but they learned something about themselves. They learned how to compete, and they learned confidence that, hey, I can hang with these type of teams.
Yeah, and I think you find out how mentally tough your team is too, right? Kind of playing that schedule, and you played somewhat of a younger team. You graduated a big class. Now, the year before you took over, you guys went to Super Bowl, right?
We just fell short.
Short.
We won't go into too many specifics.
All right, yeah, my bad.
There was a controversial Hail Mary that we're still trying to cover the wounds up.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. I won't even open that up. But regardless, you graduated a really good team from the previous year, right? And so you're playing a solid schedule. Again, 84-30. It's incredible. So you mentioned about being this, obviously in-state powerhouse in this possibly region, right? Let's say New England, for example, that you want to play some of these best teams in Connecticut and Rhode Island and New Hampshire, Maine, or Vermont. Talk about how to build that, right? You're going into year 3, and obviously a weird a weird year, right? With COVID and everything that's going on, but you have a vision of that. I mean, talk about building a program to that caliber. I mean, what's the vision? What do you want to see? I mean, you mentioned the president has a vision about, this school and athletics, which is awesome. I mean, talk about how you want to build something like that.
Yeah, I think just having the support, like you just mentioned, from the top down, from our president, our principals high on sports, our teachers, everybody's really involved. We offer a ton of different type of sports, so from that standpoint, the school has a lot to offer on top of just being one of the state's best academic schools out there. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be given a ton of opportunities, not just on the field, but off the field to travel and do missionary type work. Just meet people from around, the South Shore, North Shore, and learn different, about different types of people and kids from different backgrounds and communities. So we try to sell the school on all the different types of aspects that they have on top of being a really high caliber type football team, basketball, whatever it type of is. And then once we have our team, it's about instilling that base in that, that Arupe and freshman level, getting our coaches to, they can modify it to their liking of how they can run things at those level, but building that base down there, building that family, the trust with those guys, so that they kind of come up. One thing I've kind of learned over the years is be very careful with calling freshmen up from the freshman team. We've kind of seen some things over the years where if a guy comes up too early, sometimes he might have a bigger ego and he doesn't get along as well with the teams in his class, and that kind of messes a little bit as they get a little older. So we really, when we want to pull a freshman guy up, we want to make sure that he's 100% ready, whether he's maybe a second year type guy who just happened to repeat at 8th grade or something like that, or repeating his freshman year coming in. We want to make sure that they're healthy enough, they're physical enough, mentally prepared enough to come with us. And then once we have them, we have a developmental JV team, and a varsity. So we carry about, 80 or so kids a year. A lot of them will play the JVs on Saturdays, both guys. And then if we have extra games, versus some of our other opponents who have a larger, squad as well, we can get guys extra games as well. And we create some sort of competition as to who's going to play a JV1 versus a JV2, and then who can dress Friday night as a varsity player. We try to do as much team building as we can. Over COVID, we tried as much to, come up with, I think we were doing weekly workouts. We were releasing them on like a Google form for guys to fill out, almost, CrossFit type stuff to build the engine and make them, get them strong a little bit and just give them something else to do, not just sit around and do anything. So getting our guys to buy in for it, we changed into our model, and then we kind of changed our captain approach too, where it wasn't just sit everybody in a room and vote on a piece of paper, top 3 guys get it. Anybody who felt that they were ready enough to be a captain would come and apply. They would get a physical application from me, they'd fill it out, and then they would go through an application process. And depending on the number of guys we have, we have the sitting captains actually run some of these interviews, and then they give feedback, and we either will whittle it down to a certain number of guys, or if there's only a few, we'll push it to the team, and then the team has the final say where they vote. Coaches are more or less there to break ties and give some input on who maybe somebody might have been missed or whatnot. So trying to build that culture of being that family, being there for each other, getting the right guys that can be captains and lead and stay in communication. We use Huddle a lot to just keep up with wellness check-ins with our guys. How you doing? And then we want to see them be successful afterwards. So we try to highlight, I shouldn't say, highlight their, their skills, their achievements on and off the field to get them to that next level, whether it's, a Division III of a school that they really wanted to get into, or it's, a Division I reach that the kid never thought possible, and we get them into that type of thing. So I think just building it from that ground and year by year, just trying to chip away at little goals, not trying to do everything in one year. I think, again, you look back, ask the question about the first year, maybe we tried to do too much. We had to pare it back going into year 2 a little bit. So I think if we can continue to do that and add the winning on top versus these top opponents, we're going to get a snowball rolling downhill, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger for us.
Yeah, and I think that's the right perspective, right? And the right view. You can't just fix everything or change everything year one, because you're going to be doing so much of that the on the field stuff is just going to be it's going to suffer. And maybe that's part of what the formula was, right? But talk a little bit about, because I'm hearing you mention different schools or different divisions and conferences. I mean, you've been there a couple years, but you were there for an assist. I mean, talk about the type of schools you're sending kids to. I mean, when we mentioned playing football at that next level, I mean,
Mhm.
name some of the schools that you guys are sending kids to, because I think that's what's more impressive. If you want to build a powerhouse, let's talk about it. I mean, let's talk about some of the talent you've been sending off to college over the last, let's say, 10, 12 years that you've been coaching there alone.
Oh, we've had, I would say the NESCAC is the biggest. Just you name it, they've been sending it to the Trinities, the Williams of the world, Wesleyan, Bowdoin. Bowdoin's been a big one the last few years. But we've been starting to step it up a little bit more. And I want to say it's been about 5 or 6 years. We started getting more of the UNH, the UMaine type schools, UMass coming in. And really, within the last 3 or 4 years, some of the bigger names, the BCs, now that UMass is in that, the top tier FBS, they're back around. It kind of all started with Ozzie Trapillo, who's currently at BC. In 18, he kind of came in. He was a tight end for us, and we kind of used him as a tight end and a tackle. And then primarily his senior year, he was a tackle. And coaches were coming in like crazy all the time, seeing him. Michigan, Princeton, Harvard, Duke, Wake Forest, you name it, they were coming in. Stanford, we actually have a decent connection with Stanford, where an ex-player is a grad. I think he's a grad assistant out there now. So we have a nice connection to pick up a phone and get some input out that way. And then once we started having the coaches come through, as you've probably seen, like that February through late April, early May is just crazy for recruiting. I mean, they were coming into school almost daily, and the phone calls were almost like hourly, if not every half an hour. Some of them talking, most of them looking for Ozzie, how to meet him, what can we do? Can we get him away from BC? All this stuff. And what we started to do is think outside the box a little bit. Okay, they're coming in to see him, but we have all these other guys, and we started looking at our guys individually and starting to say, hey, when a coach comes in, let's try to pair one of the guys that we think might be an FBS type guy. So, what we started to do with our big right tackle, Eric Russell, is just says, he's 6'7", 270 pounds now. We would just say, Eric, when Coach Brown from Michigan's here, just go stand next to Ozzie. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just stay there. If he shakes your hand, he shakes your hand. You don't have to do anything else. And then just slowly introduce other guys that way. When, some of the big D1s, D2s, when they were coming in, they'd say, hey, give us, who you think be ready. And, there might be some bubble guys, but let's give them an opportunity. Let's see if maybe in an interview they can impress. And we try to coach our guys through some of that. Early on in the COVID lockdowns, especially, it happened just before a lot of the coaches, they were just getting going with their due diligence on, hey, can you send us your list? And we had already had that put together. We have like a nice 3, 4, 5 page list, depending on how many players we have. It's, PDF with emails, what town they're from, my contact information, coaches' notes, levels we feel that they could play at, huddle film, Twitter handles, all that stuff. And we try to make it as simple for these guys as possible. Send out a mass email right as the season ends, and then start to whittle through, work with our guys on where they think they would like to go to college, set up meetings with them and their parents. We were doing a lot of that on Zoom. Just, hey, you don't have an offer yet. You don't have schools on your radar. This is how you're going to do it. And what came into it was a lot of social media. I wasn't the best at it, but now that I'm a head coach, I've kind of learned. And Twitter's huge. That's pretty much all my feed is right now is just college football stuff. And we encourage our guys. You gotta, if you want to be recognized, we don't know what the season's going to look like, or even if you're going to have it, whatever, but you got to show yourself. You get a big self-promotion, and we tried to help steer them. Each kid got their own, what do I want to say? Each one got their own digital folder in a cloud storage, complete with a blank Excel sheet. And it's just, put in who you're talking to, where they're from, the next steps, all that. And then myself, as well as, I have a college recruiting coordinator who helps out, Coach Bryce Scottron, phenomenal. He played with us in '97, phenomenal football and track athlete. And he, now he's back coaching with us, and he kind of helps be a go-between for me and the coaches at times, and actually handles probably a lot more work than me. But he's been so vital, especially he's a guidance counselor as well. So he has even more knowledge and stuff to help some of these guys through the college process. And that's kind of stuff we're trying to do, just to help our guys get to that next level, and hopefully show that to families by placing these guys into the next level, wherever it is that they, whatever they end up going, right? Maybe one kid wants to go to Harvard, but the grades aren't there, but he's a pretty good football player. Maybe we can talk with the coaches to get him in there. So we're hoping to just keep building that and keep sending guys more and more places.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, talk about, you just gave a great pitch. If I had a kid that was, looking to play at that next level, I'd be calling you. I think it's amazing, and what I love about a lot of the stuff that you're saying, Coach, is you care about the kids. Like, this isn't just about, tooting your own horn about your program. It's about you putting these kids in a position to be able to be successful, to communicate with colleges, to teach them to be young men. And you've mentioned academics quite a few times. BC High is a huge academic school. It's a tough academic school. And it's important for people in the audience out there to know that you're sending out players that are, 1AA, if not Division I, FCS, FBS level caliber type players through your program. It's amazing to hear. And I think it's great that the school has you. The school understands that you understand the athlete on a much bigger level than just a playing field. It's like you have 3 full-time jobs. You're a coach, you're a recruiting coordinator, and you have a regular job. So it's just another thing to add on. That's all.
It's fun though. I wouldn't give it up for anything. It's
fun. So, talk about you want to build this, we talked about this powerhouse, right? Coaching staff. I mean, you were a young guy around the block once, and you learned the way you learned, and you did what you did. I mean, what's the expectations for a coaching staff, for people to work in your program and where you want to take and where your vision is? Talk about your coaching staff a little bit and the expectations that you have.
Yeah, our coaching staff, we try to look for guys that, again, embody the school motto, being man for others, men of, have some faith, have some compassion, love for the sport, and also are hard workers. They're willing to put in the time, the effort. And as, technology becomes more prevalent, that becomes a little bit of a prerequisite now for some coaches, because we have some tools that we use that require some technological stuff. That's not to say we don't have guys who aren't the best at it. We work them through it, but we look for guys who are just gonna not just be yes men and do what I say, right? I want guys who are gonna talk, not talk back, but give great advice, great input back, and it sometimes challenge what I'm saying, right? Question like, why am I doing something like this? Explain the reason. I don't quite get it. And I get that a lot. I talk daily with, pretty much a lot of the staff, and we talk about different little things and why we would do them, and I get great input from a lot of guys. And some of those guys are BC High guys. They've all been through the school. They understand what it's all about. They played there. They played at the next level. Coach Scottron was a D1 player at UNH. Our offensive line coach, Coach Dave McCarthy, D1 guy at Northeastern under Don Brown before the program folded there. So we try to look to get guys like that back, and we have other people who aren't even on staff, but they'll call or email, that have played not only with me, but as a player under me. Coach, I'd love to come back and volunteer whenever I have a chance. And we have a couple of those. Coach Sullivan is our kicking coach when he can be around. I actually held the extra point for him back in '99 to win Thanksgiving. He won't let me forget that one. And then we have Coach Rob McCourt, another great guy, who said, hey, I got some time. I'm in between jobs. I'll help out wherever I can. And he's gone above and beyond anybody that I've ever seen as a volunteer, day in and day out, doing whatever he can. And then just some other young guys. We have another young guy who's kind of in the same mold as me, John Lane, who started with the freshmen, in an assistant role, moved into the head coaching role at the freshman. And, about a year ago, I said, hey, this guy, he's been in the booth for us, similar to what I did in 2008. He's been in the booth. And I said, listen, he's too good of an asset to have down there. Let's bring him up, great. And just, and then we have teachers and administrators, some guys who are on staff as well. One of our teachers, a long time, he was even there when I was there. He actually coached with my father at Christopher Columbus High School, was Jack Travers. He's our D-line coach. He's been around, not to make him feel old, sorry, Coach. He's been around a long time, but not as old as my dad. So, he learned under him. And, it's been great being able to coach with those type of guys. And, again, we just look for people who are going to be energetic, bring that life. We have Coach Saba, who's been coaching forever. He's kind of like we call our boxing corner man. He's the big rah-rah, he gets them all going. And of course, our defensive coordinator, Harry Taylor, who played D1 at Marist. He's been back with us for 6 or 7 years. He's great. We have a former head coach from Roxbury Latin, Orlando Patterson, who just came back, who's now in our admissions office helping us on football as well. So, we've got some great football minds, guys who have played at high levels or have been around the game a long time, seen a lot of things, and can give great input and not just say, hey, this is okay, that's what you want to do, sure, I'll do that, right? They'll do the things we ask and require them. So that's what we're looking for out of those type of guys.
It's awesome. It's great to bring alumni back. When I was assistant coach, we had a lot of alumni come back. When I was a head coach, I had Coach Deja, he played at Merrimack, great guy, smart guy. So it's nice when you have, people who understand the program and understand the pride in it and understand what your message is, because they were there when you were there, or you coach them as an assistant and they have that respect for you. It might even played for them, right? So, or played for them. So it's awesome when you can bring that all back and really kind of bring that together. So, I did a little bit of homework on you. So I want to talk about your year 1 to year 2 jump. All right. So I'm just going to read these numbers out to you. You may or may not know them. In 2008, where you played, an NFL caliber schedule, you guys had 121 points for, 195 points against. Year 2, reading in the paper and kind of reading some of your quotes, it seemed like you had a big emphasis on the run game, that you really wanted to get the run game evolved a little bit more year 2. So I'm guessing good back, good line, things like that. The flip from 2018 to 2019 was 264 points for, 165 points again. So you jumped over 100, 40, 150 points up, and you dropped down 50 points, which is significant jumps on both sides of the ball to improve. So what do you accredit the biggest, the biggest change or the biggest reason why those numbers switch like that?
So a lot of it, I think we touched a little bit early on, was just learning, how to handle the day in and day out, best practices and be efficient with it. And I think I might have said that we tried to do too much, offensively. When I look back at the year, we had, I don't know how many formations, how many play names, things like that. And at times, we kind of give some freedom, but we were telling kids to try to read mid-route or adjust, the quarterback try to adjust, and we didn't quite have the players to kind of understand a lot of that. So we kind of took the step back and simplified it a little bit. Tried as much to reduce terminology as much as my coaches will get after me and call me rude with some of my play calls. But we try to do the best we can to pare it down. Like when we looked at formation, why do I have to have a different name for each formation? I just refer to them as 2x2, 3x1 sets, and I would just give them a quick tag so that we're moving a tight end or something like that. Something real simple that the kids picked up really fast. Defensively, the numbers didn't change a whole lot. They went down. Some of that was because of experience. We had, a very young team in 2018. And when it came to 19, they had a lot of those guys were back. They understood how to run the defense and got a little bit better. And that defense had kind of been, hitting on all cylinders for the last 4 or 5 years between Coach Taylor and myself, really hammering it down, simplifying everything, putting in some really great rules week in and week out that made it a seamless transition, whether it was 4-3, 3-4, whatever it was going to be, and just working the techniques with this. And we kind of had to take the same approach with offense. Like, we don't need this big, expansive playbook. 4 or 5 maybe run plays, put a couple RPOs, and then make some simple reads and try to relay that to the kids in a way that they would understand it through, play call names. Using huddle was huge with building play scripts for every day. We started putting more stuff on armbands, and we tried to make it as dummy proof as possible by putting, these are the routes you're running in practice. This is what you need to do. And then just having, again, we go back to the coaches, guys willing to do anything. When we're on offense, the defensive coaches will be back there and they're running the scout team. They've got the play cards or they have the iPad, and they're, we might say, hey, I'm on play 1, give me defensive alignment play 2, whatever it is, just something different. And, we try to share that through the messenger on Huddle. We utilize the playbook. We put stuff on the playbooks, and we can see who's looking at it on Huddle, who's not looking at it. So when you go to practice and you say, hey, Johnny, why didn't you do this? And he looks at you like, well, get in the playbook, son. Come on. So I think just having the kids grow up, get a little bit more experience from 18 to 19. And then the big thing is confidence with our guys. We're really trying to build that up. I think we really started to see that when you look at the 2 CM games that we played that year. First was in the playoff, and that first half of the playoff, we got our butt kicked, plain and simple. There's no two ways about it. I want to say it was 21, 27, and 9 or something like that at halftime. And we went at halftime and we had a heated exchange. Right? I'll leave it at that. But then they came out, and I think they started to believe in themselves. They saw the best punches thrown by that team, and they said, we're still here standing, and they fought. I think, we shut them out in the second half. We put up some points to make it a little bit closer. We lost, but we learned a lot about ourselves. And that kind of goes, again, to what we're trying to build as a program by scheduling the best, playing the best, and getting the confidence out of our guys. When we talked to a lot of the kids who applied to be captains, we said, what was the difference between those 2 games? They said it was just the confidence, knowing that a lot of them would saying, I wasn't sure I could keep up with the speed. I wasn't sure, especially when you're reading the newspaper week in and week out, and it's this kid did that, or this kid did that, or they blew the team out by this. Some of that, again, at teenage boys, they're going to have that nervousness, that type of thing. And we're trying to help them deal with it and help them move past it by building that confidence. And then we went into that Thanksgiving Day game, and the boys all believed it. Each day after practice, somebody else would get up and talk and say, hey, we got this. We can hang with anybody in the state. We took their best punch. They're going to take ours on Thanksgiving. We're real close, just that one special team error, and otherwise we walk away with a win. But when we look at the film, we were extraordinarily pleased at how they played. You hate to kind of say moral victory, but it was a little bit for our players and for the program down the line, where our guys know that, hey, again, it's one of the best teams in the state. We are as well. We can hang with anybody. We can play with anybody if we just believe in each other. We play with that confidence, and it's going to help, and it's going to play out through our effort that way.
Yeah, and I know, as you said, sometimes you do. When you go into a game at halftime and you're getting beat up a little bit, at that point, you might, as a coach, have that mentality, okay, we might lose this game, but I want to see what we are in the second half. I want to see how we come out and fight, how we react on our first drives on both sides of the ball, and really see the fight that some of our kids have. Are we as talented as we think we are? Are we as tough as we think we are? We're going to find out. So I know what you're saying, that moral victory, and it makes sense, right? You find a lot out more about losing and being unsuccessful sometimes about your team and your kids than you do just being successful all the time. I know you have some clips that you want to share. I know you mentioned Catholic Memorial, and I think that's who it's against here. And we talked about year 1 to year 2 difference and a little bit of the run game. So I know you got some great players that you want to highlight, some schools that they're going to, and as juniors, kids are juniors, they haven't played a senior game yet, and these kids are getting offers, as we talked earlier. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of share some of these clips with us and maybe just kind of walk us through what you're showing us a little bit here.
Let me just blow it up for you. All right, so yeah, like we talked about, this is the Catholic Memorial game from Thanksgiving. I apologize. I think it was windy that day, so the camera's kind of shaking back and forth. So hopefully nobody gets seasick.
This is awesome. No, this is great.
So for us, I think going into this year, especially talking to the coaching staff, I think the big strong point is going to be the guys up front. We unfortunately lost Ozzie Trapillo, to BC in graduation. Tim Locke, we lost to Bowdoin. These guys were playing next to each other for 2 or 3 years, and you'll see they work great double teams, good steps. They have great communication. Our center was probably the most undersized guy there, but he had to fight like he was a 6'8" guy. He was phenomenal, and we helped him out in this game. We saw some stuff in the first game versus the second game. We were able to help him out, use his leverage, use the opponent's leverage, just to help him, because he's about a 5'8", 180 pounds soaking wet, but he fights like he's 6'8", 280. So on the right side in the game, we actually lost our captain, Zach Richardson, early on to an ankle injury. So we have one of our better D tackles, John May, now filling in at guard. And then our guy on the end here, Eric Russell, he's 6'7", about 270, 75 pounds. We were able to, through, again, social media and just telling guys what to do and having them listen, go train with specific people, do films, get out there. We were able to get a couple big times offers for him, and he committed to Wake Forest and just signed a few weeks ago. So he's going to be a guy that anchors our offense. And then we have another guy down the end who's kind of like an in-between type guy. He's a young 16. I think he only just turned 16. He's going to be a junior. He's 6'6". This is John Garrett, 6'6", about 260 pounds. He's been kind of traveling the country, going to different combines and pressing. He's been doing it both as a tight end and as a tackle. And he's a guy. He's a 4.0 type student, phenomenal player, phenomenal kid. And for how young he is, he's a mature kid. I kind of want to highlight the guys up front. We lost Brendan to graduation, but he had a phenomenal post-grad year at Salisbury, and I think he's earned himself a few scholarships recently. And then our quarterback is going to be is for us is a rare thing. Technically, he's a 3-year starter. He came in his sophomore year about halfway through and took some lumps. You talk about that murderous schedule. I mean, he had a phenomenal breakout game versus Brockton, but then he went up against Everett, Zavarian, and St. John's Prep, and I think it was literally 1, 2, 3. But he's learned a lot. He's a great athlete. He may not be the fastest kid, but he's smart. He's got a rocket arm. He's done a lot of work recently to make himself better. So for us, we look at BC High as a whole, even growing up as a kid, watching them. It was big run game, heavy. We used to be, the O-line U for a long time, sending guys like Paul Zukowskis to the next level, Joe Nash, Tim Bullman, those type of guys. And we're slowly kind of moving back into that. We were a little bit on the skill side, and it's kind of coming back and forth. But I just want to highlight just a little bit of our power play, that we kind of run. So we're getting a 50 front here. So we got our 5, a 3. We got a tilted 1 technique. We got another 3 over here. And then we got another wide 5. And we've kind of put in some calls where, we're either going to power the end man a line of scrimmage unless these guys feel that's more of a danger, and I'll move out, and then they'll have some calls in here. But for here, it gets a little messy. We actually, Eric decides I'm going to take an outer call, and I'm going to step out. I'm going to take the wide 5 here, and we're actually going to trap our 3 tech. We're going to get our double team back to the linebacker here. But it's pretty physical. Johnny was only a sophomore at the time. He still has to learn some pad level and leverage type things. But between these 2 guys and then everybody else washing down, this hole opens up, and Brendan takes off for a nice long game here.
Oof.
You just see it nice again. It was a nice run, nice cut by Brendan. You can see they're all talking to each other, who's blocking who. What we kind of more or less did is we gave just a generic play call, and based on our rules for the week, the quarterback and O-line would communicate as to which direction we were going to be going in, and everybody was on the same page, and we had a phenomenal day. I think Brendan ran for over 150 just based on some small adjustment things we learned. So we'll play this one more time before we show you the next clip here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
nice kick out blocks.
The tight end was a great block.
We'll rewind it to, Eric takes the wide man and just, real simple, just takes him wherever he's going. He wants to come so far upfield. I'll just ride him out. Got a nice leverage, steps inside, takes him for a ride, and you get the two guys with D1 offers just kicking guys out. That's a nice thing to have right there.
Your slot receiver there doing a little blocking too. I got to give a little love to the slot there.
Yeah. That's probably that's Carter Rice. He just signed with Syracuse. I think it's hidden behind the little screens that I got for us on here, so I couldn't see him. But Carter was a great player for us. He was physical, did a lot of great things. We wish him the best luck going forward.
Yeah.
And then we have, similar play call, but now you add a little twist to it. So we move our back, and now we can add in a power read type thing. We're getting the overhang over here, so now he becomes the read man, and we're gonna block back and try to power down through here. And our quarterback, he either has an option to RPO throw or RPO run.
Gotcha.
Great sell.
Yeah.
Gets everybody going. We had been, this game, again, was windy. It was a little bit sloppy. It was cold. So we kind of knew controlling the game, pounding away at them was going to wear them down. It was going to frustrate them. And we just kept power. And we had those little calls, whether it was kick the end man, trap the next guy, or do the pull, or hit some of those RPOs. And you can see, we have been hitting it for for so much. You just see everybody except for the free safety here. You get the linebacker, our down edge man. He's all just gone. They're chasing them back because we have been feeding him so much, especially after that last play. This was literally the next play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great read by the QB there. See him come right down the line, pull it and go.
Yeah. And again, Bobby's not our fastest, but it was a great decision, great read. And again, now we can run the power, but instead of having, an inline or an H-back type guy, we pull our tackles a little bit. And again, we can do a couple different things, so here we've got a 4-man front. We've got more of a spread set. So in this look here, I believe we're trying to trap 53. We're actually going to double team to chip down to 2. I'd love to see the double team stay a little bit longer. Tim, these guys do a great job initially getting hip to hip, foot to foot, stepping together in unison. Tim comes off a little bit early and doesn't quite get to 44 here. We started to recognize was always cutting across our center's face. So this was actually beautiful. He goes right into the leverage of our T-Mac, our center here. Same thing. He folds out. He folds to the inside. We're going to pull our tackle all the way down. Gets a little messy towards the end, but it still works out pretty well. You can see the hole initially opens up fairly well. It gets a little messy with some of the blocking, just like I talk about right there. I'd love to see. He's got his eyes down here too early. He's not controlling enough of that inside shoulder.
Yeah.
Granted, he's got a 3 to 4 star tackle to his left, so I'm sure he's thinking he can handle it. But I'd love to see him just work. Yeah, I mean, look at the size of the hole. The only guy really at this point who's going to make the tackle if we block this guy. Actually, here's the back. Yeah. Again, we're double teamed to chip him back here. We've got a guy who normally plays defensive tackle more than guard that day, but he does a really nice job trying to get there, just get in his way just enough, But for us, if we're running power 4, 5, 6 yards every play, I'll take it.
And your playbook opens like you see the quarterback pulls it. Everybody went with everybody went the back.
Yep. So here we go. The same thing again. Same play call. We're having success. Small adjustment. Last time we tried to come all the way out here to the defensive end. Right now they walk down to more of a 50 look, bump inside a little bit. Ozzy's smart enough and says, this guy's real wide. I'm going to step out. We're actually going to trap 3 tech. This was stuff we worked on in practice. If we feel we can just take him and wash him out, we'll trap this guy. We'll run up the middle. Tim takes some decent steps. You just got to get in front of 42 a little bit more. It's a hell of a player there. But just again, same play call, smart kids up front, just making small adjustments and everybody being on the same page is a beautiful thing to kind of watch. See Eric come right down, a great little block. Again, it's a little messy, but these are great teams. Good players on both sides. Oop, just froze it. And we'll slow it down a little. You see Eric takes off nice and tight, gets that inside shoulder, his shoulder inside. Kicks him out. Again, 5, 6 yards for Brendan on another pick, on another great play. And then we've got our power play. We just want to line it up. BC High for years. When I played, we were the power I, we were pro, we were slot. And I actually kind of want to put this on the wide view because you get a better sense of what the actual surge is. We're just running basically straight ISO up this middle here. Again, we got D tackles, our middle linebacker. I think we named this like McDonald's or something like that because our guys just wanted to eat. They just wanted to pound some guys up, just run the ball down people's throats. So we just said, fine, make it McDonald's, go eat, have some fun with it. Just be physical, run, just get downhill. It doesn't have to be pretty, get in front of a body, let the back make the best out of it. So we're excited about the O-line, and I'm really pleased with how our coaching staff has been working this. I think that's all the clips I have here. They'll just show you the end zone view of it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. For us, we have some phenomenal tools. We do have somebody that films our sideline, but we also have some managers and staff. We were able to buy, I think through our IT department and athletic department, we were able to buy the end zone camera. And then we kind of moved into, huddle sideline. I'm actually going to stop this. We moved into utilizing huddle sideline. And through, the first couple games, it was it was tough getting it set up, learning it, trying to pay attention to what's on the field as well as looking to the iPad. But eventually we found a good click, and, kids would come off the field and they would say, hey, this is, I might be the third or fourth option on this route, but I'm wide open right away. And sure enough, we'd go, okay, hey, get with your positional coach, have him get in the headset with me. I'll review the number. We'll go through it. We'll talk about it. We'll go there. Same offense, defense, special teams. We're getting it right away. It's being shot down to us. So having the huddle sideline, coaches who have the iPads on the sideline, all those types of things have been huge for us. And we're hoping to continue to build on all of that and just get better. And like I said, next year, the RO line will be a big focal point. We've got some great skill guys coming back, so we're hoping for a good season when and if we get to play this February.
I know. It's crazy. It's just, yeah. That's unbelievable stuff, because you talk about huddle sideline. I mean, there's not many programs in the state that have huddle sideline. I mean, I remember looking into it being like, we can't afford this. Like, I love to have it. So it's an expensive tool to have, but it's a very useful tool. Yeah. And you talked about your coaches understanding the technology. I mean, talk about being a big time program coach. I mean, that's a selling point to me if I'm a young kid that, you see that in the college games, you see that in the high school games on ESPN, and you see it in the pro game, like having laptops or, iPads and tablets, and people are, it's cool stuff, Coach. So that's tremendous stuff you're doing there for sure.
And it helps a lot with practices too, because we'll take that end zone camera, and, we've had a few guys over the years, some of our, just kids who just wanted to be involved. I think one of them, I don't know if he made the soccer team last year or not, but he came out after and was doing our end zone camera at, we'd have a tight shot for our practice for the old line, and then we'd have the overhead end zone shot for a wide shot when we're running, Pascal or end zone goal line type stuff. And, we'd send that every night, to the kids and share it with them as immediately as school is over. Usually we try to do that on Tuesday, Wednesdays. It's, you don't really need it on Monday or Thursday as much, but and that goes along with the practice scripts. Hey, you can follow along with the play calls, because we go right in, and, huddles made things so easy. I look back when I first started, I have to do all the charting of every play, first down and goal, how many yards was it? You're looking at the screen, trying to count the hash marks and stuff. Now it's all done immediately for you. So it's been huge. I love it. And yeah, it is expensive. There are some other companies out there, but again, we're lucky enough that we can afford it, and we can kind of highlight it to people when they come into open houses or when they inquire about the team.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great recruiting chip, and for what you want to build, Coach, I think it's phenomenal technology. You mentioned it earlier, but just talk about navigating through COVID a little bit. I mean, every coach I've talked to from different sports, it's just you hear different things, and you guys are getting close, man. You guys are chomping at the bit. You're probably a little less than 2 months from go. But talk about how you've been navigating your team a little bit through this time.
Sure. So, the minute we heard that we were going to get out of season coaching, my wheels were spinning a million miles an hour, and I was, hey, we're going to run 6 months worth of practices, right? And then it was like, okay, we're going to leave it up to each school, league, whatever. But the Catholic Conference got together, all the ADs got together. They came up with a great plan. We were almost like a spring ball type thing. They gave us 8 practices. We're in a hybrid model of 1 week on, 1 week off. So what we were able to do was run 2 practices a week, small pods of 10. We did a lot of technique work, just running routes, hammering down, on-air tackling. We teach sink, stagger, strike method as far as tackling. We would just do it on bags, on air, on the wheels, and we'd have out. They bought all sorts of wipes and hand sanitizer for us. We'd have it at each station, and just getting the kids used to wearing a mask, doing a little bit of conditioning, getting to do something and get out. And then we were fortunate. Northeast 7-on-7 ran a league. Our players, the parents agreed, and they signed off on everything, and we were able to get the guys out and play some 7-on-7. We did some filming with that and put it up, and coaches would mark it up. The kids would go in and look at all of that. So we were able to do some things, and the toughest thing I think has been the weight room. Being in Boston, we're under a little bit tighter restrictions sometimes, and we have a brand new strength coach, Chris Anderson, another former BC High guy who came back doing a great job with what he can do right now. but we can really only get about 10 kids at a time in the weight room for a limited amount of time. So a lot of our guys have more or less been getting together outside, whether it's small group going to a field or a small group going to work. We've got about 4 or 5 guys going down to see a great coach in Duxbury and Whitman there, Coach Scott Misham, and he's doing a phenomenal job getting those guys prepared and putting them through a grind of working out. And that's the type of things we want. We want that mental grind where they can look back at something and say, hey, I made it through that. I can get through this. Again, the confidence piece that comes into it. And then, again, just trying to keep up with guys, the recruiting, Christmas time, December kind of got away from us. We weren't able to check in quite as much. But I'm hoping to start checking in with guys this week and starting to get maybe some wellness conditioning sessions. Sorry, my cat's going.
Oh, don't worry. This is the wonder of doing everything on Zoom. I've had guests that literally like a couple of times you froze a little bit, but it happens. I mean, it's the world of technology. It's all good, man. Do not worry.
Oh yeah, I know. Downstairs in the office, sometimes the craziest thing is the Wi-Fi is next to it and it lets go.
Oh, it happens here all the time too. I'm like, I don't understand this. So it's great. And it's hard. I mean, every coach is just dealing with it so differently, and what restrictions are. And you said being in Boston, I didn't even think of that aspect of it, that you are kind of a little bit more restricted based off of what probably is implemented in the city of Boston itself. So the last thing, and your cat's making an appearance. Your cat is on the podcast.
I knew he was going to make the appearance at some point.
It's all right. Welcome to the podcast, buddy. So the last thing I'll ask you is just, what's your advice to young coaches? I mean, you were a guy who started, you started from the very bottom and now you are the head coach, right? So, what's your message to young assistant coaches out there about grinding as an assistant coach and maybe wanting to make that step to becoming a head coach? I mean, talk a little bit about the advice you give these guys.
Sure. I think the big thing, and I've touched on it a lot, and what we're trying to put with our players is just be confident in yourself. Believe that you're a good coach. Believe that how you're coaching is the right way to go about, and then also be willing to make the adjustments if you don't think it's working or you get negative feedback that it's not working, that you got to change. As a head coach, like I said, I want my coaches, the guys underneath me at all levels, to question and say, hey, why do you do this? Why is that? So that I can explain them that way. And if I'm not explaining it right, keep explaining it until they either get it or I see their vision. So I think, big thing is just, learn as much as they can, be confident in yourself. If a job opens up, you're not even sure about if you can get it or not, go for it. Just go through the experience so that you have that knowledge, what to expect, what to bring with you next time. And then just have fun with it. I mean, it's football. I mean, that's it, right? You have a small window. We talk about it all the time. There's a small window where you get to play it, and then you're old like us, and you're coaching and yelling at guys. So just have fun, be confident, be willing to adapt, and be willing to speak your mind.
Yeah. And that's it, right? I think that was the biggest thing I always tell assistant coaches when I became a head coach is just like, do what your head coach wants you to do. I'll do all the stuff that's just, it's tedious and it's a lot of work, but it's the best education you're going to get. I was lucky to learn from a lot of guys when I was there at Allentown Catholic Young. Ainsley Rosenbaum, he's the head, football coach at Framingham State. Mike DeCenzo, he coached O-line at Merrimack. I mean, those guys were guys that like I looked up to, and whatever they did, I just wanted to be great like them. So it's, it takes a lot to make that jump, but grinding and working hard, there's no route around it if you want to be a great coach. So awesome advice, Coach. And I thank you so much for coming on here. We're going to jump into our 2-minute segment, but like before we do, man, this is awesome. Like I'm a huge fan. I love what you want to build there. It's amazing the type of talent and athletes that you have and that you guys put out there and what you want to do for these kids. You care about these kids off the field. It's evident in their academics and their education. When you talked about the school, it's a tough academic school. It's not easy on top of it. But you guys across the board pump out the Division I athletes at all sports, but specifically football. So I'm really lucky to have a guy on here like this on here. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is great. I really like this. This is awesome.
So we have a 2-minute drill segment here, which I'm just going to fire some rapid fire questions at you. And, we'll see how you do. I do get a review at one point if I want you to explain something a little further, and vice versa. If you want to explain something a little bit further, you can definitely get a review as well. So I have it on my computer today. I don't have it written down, so I'm going to be looking going back and forth. But I would say, okay, let me get the timer, and here we go. Biggest victory you've had as a head coach in your 2-year tenure so far?
I got to be the first one. I think just getting that first one out of the way at Marshfield is great. We were 0-1 going into that, and just getting that first one is the best. That's a good feeling, getting that out of the way.
Yeah, you got to get it out of the way. It's relief. Toughest team you faced at BC High, whether it's an assistant coach or a head coach that you faced in your 10-year coaching there?
It's got to be St. Peter's Prep, probably 2011 when they came to us. We went down the year before, I think we played them, but the year they came up to us, I mean, their quarterback was West Virginia. The slot looked like Gronkowski. The tight end looked like Gronkowski. So they were good, but our guys fought hard. So I'd say St. Peter's Prep from New Jersey.
Okay. Would you say you were a better O coordinator or D coordinator?
O coordinator. I had a lot of help on the defensive side.
Okay. Best play in your playbook right now?
Passing has got to be Colt.
Okay. Who's the best quarterback you've seen coaching there come through the school?
That's tough. Got a bunch of guys. I'm best all around. I gotta say,
it's tough.
It is. It's got to be. It is tough. Mo Regan was very good. I got to say he was my very first. So I got to go with him.
Okay. I love it. Would you rather return your entire O-line back the following season? I think we might already answer this question, or your entire linebacking core back the next season?
The O-line.
Yeah.
It's precious. That chemistry there is too hard to build in one season sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. You can always tell who the O-line guys are. You can tell right away in the interview. I love it. Most important defensive position on the field, in your opinion?
Strong safety for us. For us, that's where our guy that sets everything, the coverage, the communication, and whatnot. So I think our safety.
Okay. What is your run percentage to pass percentage out of 100%? What would you say in a game your run to pass ratio is?
I want to say we ended up almost 55-45 last year, and that was just by accident. I thought we would be more pass, but it ended up being a little bit more run. So I think we're a little bit more on the run side.
All right, awesome. This is great. All right, last question. Who is the toughest coach you've ever had to prepare against as an assistant or as a head coach?
Man. I think we go back. I'm not sure the coach's name, but we played a team called the Paul Catholic in New Jersey. And when we looked at them on film, we thought we'd be able to kind of smash them a little bit. They were very good. They took a lot out of us. I was the defensive back coach at the time. I had to make a bunch of different adjustments because they were killing us with doubles and trips, and we had to just jump from man to zone to roll down, all sorts of different things. So when we looked at them on film, we thought we'd be able to hang with them a little bit more, but they actually didn't look quite as good because they played like the number 4 team in the country on film that they sent us. So it was a little.
That's why I always used to tell my coaches, man, you got to go see teams live when you can. I mean, obviously they're out of state. That's different because when two good teams play each other, you nitpick a team. Yeah. But when you're there and see size and speed and, pursuit to the ball, you're just like, oh boy, it's a whole different scout.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, but you survived the 2-minute drill, Coach. That was a great job. You never know what you're getting fired at you, so it's good, and you get great answers. So, from Beyond Podcast here, I'm Anthony Petrellis, Jonathan Brillo from BC High. We appreciate you coming on, and we're excited. I hope we can get you back on the show at some point to hear about your season. And I'm a big fan, man. I'm a big fan of what you want to do with your program, and I can't wait to continue to follow it.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. And keep up the good work with the podcast. And definitely anytime you want to speak again during the season, whatnot, just give me a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be paying attention to you guys on signing day. That'll be a big day for you guys. So
hoping to get more than just 1 or 2. We want a bunch. So, but it comes down, we got to win and we got to believe. I think the best mantra we've been saying is, we don't need believers. We just need witnesses.
That's it. I love it. All right, Coach. So from Beyond Accidental Podcast, I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis, Jonathan Brillo. Have a great night.
Thank you.